Hey everyone, it's Jananie and welcome back to my channel, The Story Ain't Over. So it's the end of March and as we know, spring is on the horizon. I've already seen a few other booktubers put up their spring TBRs and I thought it's about time for me as well. My spring TBR is going to be a mix of new releases that are coming out in April and May, some physical books that are on my TBR, ones that I've been meaning to pick up very soon. And then I've also got some books that I've recently acquired that I really want to get to at some point this spring. A couple weeks ago we had a really warm week in Toronto, even though I know it's caused by climate change. It was just really nice and it prompted me to switch out my entire closet from my winter clothes to my spring and summer clothes. And while I was doing this, I was definitely evaluating all the stuff that I had and how there's a lot of items that just weren't quite what I needed anymore. And with the spring coming, I was like, you know what, maybe I need a little refresh to my wardrobe, especially when it comes to my bras and bralettes. I'm so excited to talk about the sponsor of today's video, which is Parade. Now I have a really awesome discount code for all of you, so make sure you listen to the end. Parade is an underwear brand that produces seamless, smooth, and comfortable underwear. They were kind enough to send me several of their products that really helped me refresh my wardrobe. For me, their bralettes were absolutely revolutionary. I personally hate wearing bras. I hate underwires. I hate the way they constrict my body. And I also hate that whenever I get bralettes from other brands, they don't really have the lift that I would like that you get in regular bras. And so I was so excited when I got these Parade bralettes because let me tell you, they are so soft, they're so comfortable, they are the perfect combination of stretch but also support, and they've got so many different fabrics and beautiful colors as well. I love that these bralettes give a significant lift while also being super comfortable. It almost feels like I'm not wearing anything and it just makes for the perfect experience when I just want to go out and feel comfortable or if I just want to be comfortable at home. So this black bralette and the one that I'm wearing are both the Luminous Glow triangle bralettes. These are super soft and silky and they're not made the way that traditional silk is. I love that these are washable and also really durable. And then I also got the Dream Fit triangle bralette. It's super stretchy and really soft and feels super breathable. It's a certified recycled fabric that's made from rescued production materials that are usually wasted in the process. I'm overall really satisfied with my Parade items and I honestly think everyone should go check them out. They are reasonably priced and they have wonderful quality products. Now of course I do have a promo code for all of you, so if you use my code STORY40 you can get a 40% discount site-wide on any products. It's a really great deal. You can get some really amazing pieces that will become staples in your wardrobe and you can live rest assured knowing that you're going to be comfortable wherever you go. Thank you so much Parade for sponsoring today's video and now let's get into the new releases that I want to read this spring. Now before I talk about the new releases on my spring TBR, I did want to remind all of you that I have a book club on the app Fable. It's a free app you can download and participate in my book club, the Boundless Book Club. The mission of my book club is to just read from more marginalized voices and just expand our horizons in general. And if you join on Fable, you can discuss with us in these little chat rooms for each chapter. You can also get the book on Fable and have an interactive reading experience with me and other people in the club. And overall, it's just a really fun and exciting way to just read books with other people, get to know other people, get to make friends, and also just have a different experience when reading books. Our March book club selection is Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. It's a fantastic sort of dystopian sci-fi. I'm in the middle of it and absolutely loving it. So if you're interested in the book, definitely join down below. Now, I did want to also put out an ask for all of you. If you're in my book club or if you're planning to join, I would love it if you would let me know down below in the comments which of the books on this video you'd like to see as the next book club selection. I put up a poll at the end of each month for all of us to choose which book we want to read next. And I would love to get some input from all of you on what we should put in that poll before we vote on which one we want to read. Now with that said, the first new release that I'm excited to read this spring is by an author that I love. It's coming out on April 2nd and that's The House on Biscayne Bay by Chanel Cleeton. You guys know I love Chanel Cleeton's books, particularly Next Year in Havana and When We Left Cuba. But this one is a bit of a different vibe. It's a gothic horror romance from what I can tell. It's been described as being similar to Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier and it's set in the 1940s at this Florida estate, but it also has a dual timeline, which I know Chanel Cleeton has done in other books, so I think it's going to be done really well in this one. The next book that I'm excited for is You Know What You Did by KT Nguyen. This is a new one on my radar. It's coming out April 12th. This is essentially a thriller whodunit mystery and it has a Vietnamese American main character. And from what I've seen of the description, it also has OCD OCD rep, which I'm super excited for. The author also has OCD from what I've read. And as you guys know, I absolutely love mental illness representation in books. I love to see more of that. So I'm super excited to see how it's going to unfold in this book. The next book that I'm excited for is one that I know so many people are hyped for. It's coming out April 9th, and that's The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. In this house, we absolutely love everything that Leigh Bardugo writes, and I would literally read her grocery list. Like, I love everything she writes. This time I'm really excited because it seems this is a standalone. It's set in 16th century Spain, and it's a bit of a historical fantasy romance. Our main character is a scullery maid, so it's giving me like Cinderella vibes, but there's also mention of royal spies, mad alchemists, and also the Spanish Inquisition. Overall, I feel like the ambiance of this book is just going to be so fantastic, so I cannot wait for this. The next book that I'm so excited for this spring is Evocation by S.T. Gibson. I absolutely loved A Dowry of Blood by this author, which I read last year, and this is their new novel that's coming out May 28th. It follows our main character, who is a Boston attorney by day and a powerful medium for a secret society by night. From what I can tell, it's giving off a lot of like gothic, dark academia vibes and a bit of horror. And there's also mention of our main character enlisting the help of his ex-boyfriend, so there is some queer representation to this as well. Next, I'm really excited to check out Indian Burial Ground by Nick Medina. This is the author of Sisters of a Lost Nation, which came out I think last year and was one of the Goodreads finalists. I know a lot of people who love that book, and it's on my list to pick up, but I was also intrigued by his new book coming out April 16th. This book follows a young woman who is trying to investigate the suicide of her boyfriend. She thinks it's not. She thinks there's something suspicious afoot, and she enlists the help of her uncle, who has gone sort of MIA for several years, and he's finally back. And the two of them are sort of investigating the situation and trying to figure out what wicked thing is happening on the reservation lands. The next book is one that I know so many people are excited for because the author happens to be the screenwriter for the adaptation of Emily Henry's Beach Read. And funnily enough, this book, How to End a Love Story by Yulin Kong, actually follows a like best-selling novelist who gets hired as a TV writer for the adaptation of one of her books. All of it seems really meta, but I like where this is going, and it also involves a bit of a second chance romance from what I can tell. It seems like the characters knew each other before the book starts, and they are coming back together and trying to figure things out. And then the final new release that I'm super excited for this spring is the new Emily Henry book coming out April 23rd, and that's Funny Story. I feel like when it comes to Emily Henry books, you're either a happy place girly or you're a beach read and book lovers girly. There's not really an in-between, because I'm personally the type of girly who did not really enjoy Happy Place. But this book, the new one, Funny Story, I feel like is bending more towards the beach read book lovers vibe, to me at least. Essentially, the romance in this book follows our main character, who has sort of been dumped by her fiance, and it seems like she ends up striking up a unlikely friendship with her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex-fiance. I know, it's very confusing, but ex-fiance's new fiance's ex. I feel like the whole concept is so ridiculous, but it's going to be so much fun, and like the title says, I think it's going to be a hilarious story. Okay, with that said, let's get into the physical books on my spring TBR. There's a whole mix of books here, from romance to literary fiction to like poetry. But first up, I want to talk about a couple books by Palestinian authors that I bought a few months ago. So the first one is Things You May Find Hidden in My Ear by Mosab Abu Toha. This is a collection of poems by the author, and all of them deal with the experience of growing up and living in constant lockdown and often under direct attack. It's a first-hand account of what it feels like to live under occupation, and I think this one's just gonna like bring me to tears. So I know this is one that I really want to take my time with and sit with, because so many Palestinian voices have been silenced and I really want to listen to them. And then the other book that I want to pick up is Her First Palestinian and Other Stories by Saeed TB. This is a collection of short stories by the author, and they all deal with the diasporic Palestinian experience. And from what I can tell from all of the blurbs and reviews, it seems like it has a really nice range of experiences and deals with some really difficult topics while also delivering them with sharp wit and humor. Alrighty, next up I have 3 books that, full disclosure, are written by some of my wonderful friends, and I'm so excited that they have their books out. I'm so excited to support them, and I'm so excited to read these and see what I think of them. I'm so proud of all of these friends, and I can't wait for all of you to experience their stories. First up, I have a book by my lovely friend Kaden Caden Armstrong, and that's Truthfully Yours. This seems like it's going to be such a cute romance. It's a forced proximity situation where the two main characters are living in the same apartment. And the book is also set in Scotland, which is where Caden actually lives. And when I went to Edinburgh last fall, I actually visited her there and stayed with her for a few days, and she's lovely, and I'm so excited that her book is now out here in the world. This is self-published, and I'm so proud of Caden for going through the entire process and just making it here, so I hope all of you will check out her book. The next book is by my lovely friend Sarah Mugulrana, and that is Hope Ablaze. I'm so excited to read this one because I've heard it described as the Poet X meets All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir, which, if you've been following me for a while, you know those two books are some of my favorite YAs ever. Both of them just pack a punch, and I feel like this book is going to do the exact same. From what I know beyond just the narrative of the novel, there are also parts that are written in poetry, which I think is going to be so stunning and beautiful, and I'm so excited to see how Sarah, brought that to life. And in terms of themes in this book tackles Islamophobia, racism, and generational trauma with authentic nuance and terrific heart. I'm so excited to check out this book, and I hope that you guys will too. Alrighty, and then the next book that I'm really excited to pick up is by an author that I absolutely adore, and that is Vaishnavi Patel, and it's her new book, Goddess of the River. This is actually an advanced reader copy, and the book is coming out in May. And as you guys know, I am the biggest fan of Vaishnavi Patel's debut novel, Kaigei. Both deal with mythological retellings, and this one in particular follows the goddess Ganga, who is like a river goddess. It also follows her son, who is a prince. These two characters are from the ancient Hindu epic, the Mahabharata, and that epic is one that has a sprawling set of characters and timelines and plot lines. So Vaishnavi Patel is sort of taking a section of it and retelling it here. I feel like there's so much pressure on this because I loved Kaigei, but I feel like this will still be astounding. Alrighty, next up for the spring, I really want to read some more hot sad girl books, those like literary fiction-y books that deal with girls just like going through it, being unhinged, or dealing with very difficult things, being sad, dealing with their emotions and their mental health, and honestly just trying to do their best. I feel like spring is the perfect moment for these books because all of these books deal with some sort of change in the characters, and they deal with difficult periods in these characters' lives. So with that said, the first of these books is a viral book talk favorite, and that is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Mosfegh. I've heard so many different things about this book. Some people say they love it, some people say they hate it, some people are just like, it was mediocre. But personally, based off the description alone, I feel like this is just gonna be such a hard hitter for me. It feels exactly like something I would enjoy, and I am so intrigued to see whether I'm gonna like it. The back of the book describes it as the shocking and strangely tender story of a young woman's efforts to duck the ills of the world with the help of one of the worst psychiatrists in the annals of literature. I feel like that alone is enough to get me to read this, so I can't wait to pick this up. The next book is one that I honestly don't know what the plot is, but it just seems like something I'm gonna love, and that is All the Lovers in the Night by Mieko Kawakami. I've heard really great things about this author. She has several different novels, and this is actually a translated fiction from Japanese. And essentially this follows a freelance copy editor in her 30s who just like has a moment one day and is reevaluating her whole life and just, going through it, as one does. Alright, the next book is by an author that I have enjoyed their books in the past, and that is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. I absolutely loved Little Fires Everywhere by this author. I know some people are like lukewarm about it, but I loved it. But I have heard a lot of people tell me that they actually preferred Everything I Never Told You, so that has my expectations high. Essentially, this follows a Chinese-American family living in the 1970s in small town Ohio. Not only that, this also involves a dead body and a bit of a page-turning mystery, and I feel like this is going to be even more delectable than Little Fires Everywhere. Alright, the next book has been on my TBR for literally 80 years, and I need to get to it, and that is Severance by Ling Ma. I did start it at one point a couple years ago and then never got around to finishing it, so I do need to start it from the beginning again. But from what I remember, the premise is quite interesting. It's a bit of a dystopian-ish situation from what I remember, and some of the blurbs on the back of this book have some really interesting things to say. I absolutely love this one. It says, Severance might just be the first and only coming-of-age immigrant experience anti-capitalist zombie novel you'll ever read. Which, come on. How does that not make you want to read this? Another one says, the best work of fiction I've read yet about the millennial condition, the alienation and cruelty that comes with being a functional person under advanced global capitalism, and the compromised pleasures and irreducibly personal meaning to be found in claiming some stability in a terrible world. Ling-Ma has written one of my favorite novels of the year. Come on. I feel like this one is a really strong contender for our April book club pick, but let me know. Alrighty, now I'm on to a few of the romances that I have acquired recently that I'm really excited to pick up. A lot of these are historical romances, so if you're not into that, I guess you can leave. But the first one is actually not a historical romance. It is a sequel though, and that is This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. This is the sequel slash companion novel to Before I Let Go by this author, which is a romance book that I read last year or the year before. Absolutely loved it. Like, it changed my world. I loved the characters. It was just so beautifully written and dealt with so many different themes and topics, from grief to parenthood to mental health. This book, I believe, follows one of the supporting characters from the first book and it takes place many years later from what I can tell. And honestly, I'm just so hyped to see how this one goes. I read the author's note at the beginning of this book recently, and it does mention that there is some autistic representation, so I'm really intrigued to see how that's going to go in this book. If you've read This Could Be Us and you've also read Before I Let Go, let me know what you thought of it. If you think it compares, if you think it's better or worse, I need to know. Without spoilers, of course. Alright, next up I have a queer historical romance that I'm so hyped for, and that is The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics by Olivia Waite. I feel like the historical romance genre is just full of like straight hetero romances, so I'm so excited to check out this queer one. And from what I can tell, it does have a bit of a like darker tone to it. It's got some heavier topics, so I'm curious to see how that's gonna go. This next book is also historical romance, and I've heard so many people say great things about this author and her books, and that is Beverly Jenkins' Rebel. This takes place in the aftermath of the Civil War and follows two characters who are in New Orleans. The main character is actually from the North, and you know, she's in the South during this chaotic time and trying to help the newly emancipated. And their love interest also happens to be an architect who's from New Orleans. I feel like this is gonna be so cute and sexy and fun while also dealing with some bigger, larger topics, which is honestly the mix that I absolutely love in books, so I can't wait to see what I think of this. Alrighty, and then I've also got another book set in the Civil War era, and that's An Extraordinary Union by Alyssa Cole. And this one, aside from the romance, also seems to deal with some of the more political aspects and like the espionage and like mystery, and it's also set during the Civil War rather than like after it. Our main character is Elle Burns, who's a former slave and who happens to have a photographic memory. And then our love interest happens to be a detective for a secret service, and the both of them are sort of working together as spies and stumble upon a plot that could turn the tide of the war. I'm curious to see if this one's going to be more on the romance side or more on the like history, politics, and mystery side, so we'll see. Alrighty, and then the last book on this really long spring TBR is Aphrodite and the Duke by JJ McAvoy. I think this one is more of a Regency romance, which I love Regency romances, but with black main characters. And from what I can tell, this is a second chance romance, like the characters had something before and now they're coming back together and potentially rekindling something, but there's a bit of animosity to start. I feel like this one's gonna be really heavy on the romance and like steaminess, so I'm really excited to pick it up. Alrighty, with that said, those are all the books on my really big spring TBR. I'm so excited for the weather to change, for more sunlight, to like sit at the park with a picnic blanket and read. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and that you found some books that you want to pick up, and definitely let me know which of the books you'd like me to add to the poll for the book club selection for next month. And definitely let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, and if you think I should pick them up sooner or later. And of course, don't forget the really awesome parade offer. You can get 40% off site-wide on any items using my code STORY40. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, go check out my Instagram, Goodreads, TikTok, and Bindery community, where you can get exclusive content from me, from monthly TBRs to journal entries to exclusive videos on the publishing process with my imprint Boundless Press, and overall just a fun and lovely, cute community. Additionally to that, I would also check out my Discord community down below. It's totally free, and you can join the 300 plus other people there who are just chatting about books and just having a great time. It's a really nice place to connect with other readers and viewers of my channel, so I hope you guys will go check that out. I'll see you in my next video, and please remember that this story ain't over. Bye!